Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the guy who cuts my lawn, all my mates in the tackle shops around the world, some other guy who might look like Krusty the Clown, or not, and everyone else on the planet, welcome. It is I, Mad Dog Royter, and we're about to do some retrieving. Retrieving what? 3B cranks, these little suckers. 6 fantastic new lures from Berkley that I had my little fingers into, my little digits were tuning and tweaking and playing with all the designs of, colours and all. We're going to do some retrieving of these things, how it works, what to do, but as I've always said, retrieves are all about your good selves in there. I'm just going to help you along. There's no rule book with retrieves. They can be whatever you want them to be. They're as hard or as fast or as soft or as slow or as deep or as shallow. I don't care. As long as you're happy, as long as you're catching fish, it's all good. So come along. Let's go and have a look at some funky Mad Dog style retrieves. Oh! Now the first cab off the rank is the puppy dog. This little guy is probably what made me pull the rest of my hair out, and I don't have much left, check that out. Hey? There's not much going on up top there, but never mind. This little guy helped to remove the fair majority of it. Reason being, it's a silent lure that doesn't have any body weights. It's just plastic. Now that was an absolute nightmare to get together. Now the reason I did that is so that it floats a very particular way. Now most hard bodies, when you stop retrieving them, they'll float tail first towards the surface, but the puppy dog floats head first towards the surface, just like an injured bait fish would. Now bait fish, when they're injured, they tend to swim towards the top, sometimes upside down or belly up, but they always will end up around the surface with their heads poking out of the water. So that's exactly what I wanted to do with the puppy dog. I wanted it to dive down like this, then turn and float up to the surface like that, just like a real bait fish would. And I think that's part of the reason why this guy catches a lot of fish. It's a slow floater, but it's a medium diver. 1 metre to 1.5 metres, 2 metres if you've got skinny line. Let's get the retrieves underway. Now of course you've got your standard, your good old standard slow roll. A slow roll is going to work beautifully with all diving hard bodies because you're just imparting the lure's own inbuilt action into the retrieve. And all it is just a slow roll. Now if you don't know what a slow roll is, it's just turning the handle slow to medium pace, just like that. It's not terribly difficult to do. Cast the lure out and wind the lure in, and I tell you what, it is one of the best retrieves you can do full stop. So if you don't know what you're doing, if you have no idea what type of retrieve you should do, just do the slow roll. It's a classic. Now, after we've pursued the slow roll and you've had no luck, you might find that the fish are a bit shut down and they need a little bit more activity, a little bit more spice, a little bit more delivery. That's where you come into it. Now we're going to try just putting a few rod tip flicks into the retrieve, just to entice the fish to strike. It makes the lure jolt and balk left, right, sideways, up, down. It spears it off in all sorts of angles. You'll see in the underwater footage now that that's exactly what this lure is doing. All you need to do is just a couple of short rod tip flicks whilst you're winding the handle. Now you can stop and do those flicks, or you can continue to retrieve and do those flicks. This is how it works. You wind it down to the desired depth where you want it to go. Now the puppy dog's going to swim down to 1.5 metres, maybe 2 metres. Wind it down and then pop, pop, pop with the rod tip. Now it's watching the hand, not so much the rod tip. You also want to watch the hand. Pop, pop, pop. Just pop the rod tip, whack, whack, whack. Really aggressively jerk that rod tip against the line, and that'll make the lure fork and bolt out of its normal track, out of its path. So wind it down to its depth, bang, bang, bang. Keep winding, bang, bang. And vary it up as well. Don't do exactly the same methodic retrieve all the way back. Give it 1 hit, then 3 hits, then 2 hits. So mix it up a little bit. And then there's, of course, something which is fairly new to a lot of people, but surface fishing with big minnows. It's possible, and it's very good fun. Now, to do that with this puppy dog, it's almost like falling asleep. You put your rod tip up nice and high, and you just engage the lure just so that you come tight to it, and then you just pop it just with the gentlest little rod tip flick, and you let it float to the top. And I can see the puppy dog out there, and we just come in, engage with it, just a little bit of tension to the lure, and just pop. And that makes the lure swim down, but only about an inch or two, and then float back to the surface. So you are sort of swimming it, but it's right in the surface film. So if you've got surface feeding fish and you don't have a particular surface lure like a scum dog or a pop dog, then this is the retrieve you need to do. Come just tight with it, and then just hit it once, just pop, and it'll just wiggle under and then float back to the top very, very slowly. A very good retrieve. And then last but not least is a fairly popular retrieve with soft plastics. It's the shake and retrieve, that's right. So you can bring your shake and retrieve back out of its soft plastic box and give it a crack with the puppy dog, because it works an absolute treat. And you would have seen me do this particular retrieve on some soft plastic DVDs, but I'll give it to you again just in case you missed it. You just slowly turn the handle and shake the rod tip. So that's just wobbling the rod tip backwards and forwards. So you're just doing this with your rod in your hand, just shaking your hand like you're waving goodbye, ta-ta, and winding the handle at the same time. And that makes the lure erratically swim back like it's been pre-hit or injured. So it's trying to get back to its school of fish that it's come from, and it's got no choice. It's got to swim with a broken back, and that shake and retrieve makes that little puppy dog swim like an absolute gem. One of my favourite retrieves for medium to slow, shallow even. I'm in shallow water here today, so this retrieve works an absolute treat.